invited guests, as well as to the graduate class 2015, well, April 2015. So Sharice mentioned, my name is Khadeidra. I just recently graduated from Teachers College, Columbia University. I studied social organizational psychology, so basically the development of leaders and the development of high-performing teams. I had the great opportunity of looking at the answers that you provided to the questions back in March, at the end of March, as well as looking at your answers to the very same questions on April 14th. So I'm going to start presenting basically the story of what the data has said to us. So the first question was, I am a leader at blank. So March 31st, 10 of you said at home only, 1 person said at work only, no one said community, 4 said all, so home, work, and community, and 1 person didn't respond. So 3 weeks later, 6 people said home, 1 person said work, 6 people said all, and 2 people didn't respond. So what does this tell us? This tells us basically that there has been a shift in the understanding of what leadership looks like and where you see your leadership being exemplified. So there are 4 less people saying at home only, because more people are saying all, and it definitely speaks to your understanding of leadership and what that means to you as a person as well as to different organizations. So a cornerstone of developing leaders and developing yourself as a leader is self-awareness. Of course, it's very important to have a good understanding of your work unit. It's important to have an understanding of the organization you work in, the industry, the political environment, and so on. But developing yourself as a leader begins again with yourself. So you were asked a few questions about your strengths and, as I like to call it, areas of opportunity. Sorry that it's not rendering very well, but on March 31st, when you were asked whether you know your strengths, 87% of the class, so approximately 11 participants, said true. 1 person did not respond, 1 person said false. So fast forward 3 weeks later, 93% said true, whereas no one said false, and 1 person said no response. So definitely you're seeing the shift of a greater self-awareness. I know where my strengths are. So specifically, what do those strengths look like? So back in March, there were 29 unique answers to that question. You have things like love, writing, punctual, optimism, as well as the more frequently responded answers such as analytical, team player, persistence, organization, diligence, interpersonal, detail-oriented. So it was interesting to see how these responses shifted following these weeks of going through the analyst core program. So let's see. So the first thing I noticed was that the amount of unique answers decreased. So there was more of a convergence as a class. Everyone began to develop a more sophisticated or a more comprehensive understanding of what strengths in the workplace necessarily look like. Then I noticed, so I mentioned there were 29 unique answers, then there were 25, which were the skills that disappeared. I was very interested. So love, kindness turned into things like receptive, objective. There were some words that manifested across both times, such as flexible, and that was actually very interesting because you see the size of flexible right here. So probably 1 person said that, versus 3 weeks later, it increased. So more people were seeing themselves as flexible, as adaptable within the workplace, and that's definitely a great strength as your work your workplace changes as well as the organization changes and the environment in and of itself changes as well. Also, you notice detail-oriented is here. It's great to be detail-oriented. And so a few weeks ago when I first began speaking with you, we talked a little bit about what I had done in retail. So when I was a retail sales associate, I approached the customer, I started the conversation, would you like this pair of pants? Would you like this shirt to go with it? So that was me being detail-oriented in that particular role. I had to focus on the tactics of implementing the overall strategy of building customer relationships, right? So detail-oriented, I'm on the stage. Then, 3 weeks out, you notice process-oriented replaces detail-oriented. It's great to be detail-oriented, of course, but then, back to my own example, as I became a sales manager, I then had to take a step back. So I'm no longer on the stage, I'm in the balcony. I'm taking more of a process-oriented vision of what's happening, and that was my development, just as it's become your development as well. So you're understanding that shift from being at the tactical level to developing as a leader and taking that step back and looking at processes more globally, understanding all the moving parts and the moving pieces. So I thought that was very interesting. So just to round up this particular component, from March 1st to April 14th, we noticed that words such as caring, things that are more virtues as opposed to skills, have become things like flexible, things that are more transferable across your different experiences. Words like interpersonal are becoming cooperative, so it's great to just get along with everyone, but being cooperative means a little bit more. There's more of a tangible skill that's being developed. We talked about detail-oriented shifting to process-oriented. We talked about certain things continuing to appear, such as analytical, as well as organizational, words like that becoming a little bit more defined. So what does that look like? Optimism, being logical, being practical. So definitely a lot of growth there. So I know my areas of challenge. Back in March, on the 31st, 67% of the class said they know their areas of challenge, their areas of opportunity. So a big part, again, of being self-aware is understanding what needs to be developed. 27%, or 4 participants, said they did not know their areas of challenge, and 1 person did not respond. Fast forward 3 weeks later, 87% of the class had an understanding of what their areas of opportunity are. Okay, so we will get back to areas of challenge because that was a very critical point in the analysis of the data. But first, let's go to personal brand. So we talked about personal brand when I first spoke with you, and being self-aware and being able to understand your brand as well as to communicate that to others. So you were asked, my personal brand is blank. This includes what I think of myself and what others think of me. So we had answers like progressive, 1 person said that. Neutral, 1 person said that. Authentic, 1 person. Reflective, 1 person. Developing, 1 person. Straightforward, 1 person. No response, 1 person. Compassionate, 1 person. Then the more popular answers were resiliency or strong-willed and friendly. We had the most frequently occurring answer was friendly. So fast forward March 31st. What do you think happened? I'm taking guesses.
The brand changed.
Okay.
Something more concrete.
Okay. So yes, we saw a lot more convergence, more concrete. Friendly disappeared, right? It became personable, right? It became adaptable. It became cooperative. Reliable was the most frequently identified personal brand, which is great. We have expressive, innovator, progressive remained as well. Leader came up there. enthusiastic came up there as well. So something that was also interesting was that, again, more convergence, more people selecting very similar and more concrete identifiers of their personal brand. So MBTI. Those of you who have met before, you know I love MBTI. I love talking about it, and it was very interesting to see your growth in your self-awareness once that conversation came up. Back on March 31st, 50%, so 8 people, give or take, in the class did not know their MBTI type. Just a few said true, and a few also said, well, didn't give a response. So, Precious, what's your MBTI type?
ISTJ.
Andrew, what's your MBTI type?
ESTP.
Okay. Any other volunteers? No? Yes.
I'm also ESTJ.
ESTJ, okay. What do you think happened on April 14th when you all had to answer this question? Exactly. So 100%, everyone knew their MBTI type. So this is great. Now we can have conversations. So in the class as a whole, I'm just going to run through this really quickly. 10 of you are extroverted, 5 are introverted, 4 are intuitive, 10 are sensing, 11 thinking, 3 feeling, 3 perceiving, 11 judging. Okay. So then you were asked the question, I use the Myers-Briggs type to develop myself and interact with others. Now, this stat is from April 14th. Why? Because I could not come up with a chart like this on the 31st, right? So I was very excited, very excited. So you notice that approximately, it is 10 people are above 50% as far as what percent of their time, what percent of the time that they use in using Myers-Briggs to develop themselves or their relationship with others. 6 people said 0%, which is fine, and you'll notice, I promise you will notice, as you go along, you'll start picking up these things once you interact with others. So I'll give you an example. I work with one of my friends. He has a startup business. And of course, when you're starting your own business, it's very tough to, be successful in everything you do. So he had a setback, and I was trying to coach him. I was trying to encourage and motivate him. And I said, what happens when an archer, you know what an archer is, right? But when an archer is basically doing his job. Can I have one answer just from anyone? Yes.
First of all, I guess he would have to have an aim.
A name?
An aim.
Mm-hmm.
Target.
There's a goal.
Okay. He needs a goal. Okay. All right. So when I asked that question, he started going on and on about the aim, about the degree of tension, the angle, this and that, and I am sitting there. My eyes are glazing over. I'm looking outside, and he is going on, and I'm just like, listen, I asked you a simple question, answer the question, let's move on. It's basically like, I said A, and I want to be at C next, and he is A to B, B to C, C to D, and there's always tension in talking and working with him because he is so detail oriented and I'm just already 10 steps ahead. Mm-hmm. So that is how I'm able, even in a non-full-time work capacity, I'm able to identify how I am more aware of myself and aware of others and aware of the dynamics through using MBTI. So he is ISTJ. I am ENTP. Couldn't be more different. So, interesting. areas where challenges arise. So I promised you that we would return to this. March 31st, these were your answers. So higher up, public speaking, being indecisive, being passive or calm, those were the most frequently occurring areas where challenges arise. Towards the bottom, you have routine, being self-righteous, having a fear of taking chances. Those are the less frequently occurring areas of challenge. Also, I saw that there was some degree of difference in terms of what the content of the challenge was. So it was intrapersonal, so within yourself. So things like perfection, giving up, being passive, being self-righteous, that had more to do with you, as opposed to communication and conflict that had to do with interpersonal relationships. Then I got stumped. When I saw the data for the 14th of April, I didn't know what to do. I had no idea what to do. I couldn't understand because I couldn't figure out what did the shift represent? What did the shift mean? Let me show you why. So, even though 6 people said they don't use MBTI to analyze where challenges arise, every single answer you gave corresponded with MBTI type. So you find that the 10 people who are extroverted might have challenges with communication. Just like I mentioned with you, I have a challenge communicating with people who are not as conceptual or not as, not as intuitive, I guess, as well as people who are introverted. You would find that introverted people, the 5 of you, might have challenges being quiet or reserved, doing public speaking. You might find that the 10 people who are sensing might have challenges with intuition, might have challenges being abstract, they might have challenges working with people like me who aren't very detail oriented, right? Then people who are thinking might have a challenge being sensitive or being empathetic when making decisions because you prefer to make it based on logic, right? You find that people who are judging have challenges with spontaneity and being flexible and managing ambiguous situations, right? So it's very interesting. And you will see, I promise you, more and more, you will realize how much MBTI impacts the way that you view yourself, the way that you become more self-aware, the way that you manage relationships, and it really is very helpful. I will tell you personally, I took the MBTI 3 different times within a 1-year span, twice because I was doing organizational development, and once because I was doing a career development course, and then the 3rd time I did it with Sharice here. It really is a great tool, and I encourage you to learn as much as you can about it because it's really invaluable. So now we're finished talking about self-awareness, and we're going to talk a little bit about your development as far as the subject area of project management. Okay, so you were asked, a project is blank and creates a blank product, service, or result. There were 13 unique answers. I got, a project is revamping the offer letter process and creates a smooth offer letter verification, product, service, or result, which is fine, right? That probably is what a project looks like for your specific role. I got, a project is a job, a project is a challenge, a project is teamwork, etc., etc. What do you think happened on the 14th? And I almost could predict it. What happened? Four unique answers. Everyone on it, everyone had the right answer. They may have worded it differently, but everyone had pretty much the correct answer. So you were asked, a blank is a unique and verifiable product, result, or the capability to perform a service that must be produced to complete a process, phase, or project. Again, a lot of different answers, and I know you know what happened on the 14th. What happened? Same answer. Everybody. So great job. You definitely all have grown from this analyst core program. You've definitely gotten more of an understanding of yourselves. You now have tools with which you can continue to develop yourselves and continue to perform well in your role. So congratulations.